Quorum is present.
Thank you. We do have minutes of August 11, 2026. Is there a motion to accept those as received? Any discussion or changes? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and those minutes will be accepted as received. We're now down to the mayor's report. Item 1, we would like to appoint Tabitha Hawthorne to the Recreation Commission for a 3-year term, which would end on June 30th, 2029. Do I have a motion to approve that?
I will make that motion.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The ayes have that. Tabitha is appointed. Tabitha, are you in the audience tonight?
She is in attendance.
Tabitha, if you'd stand up so we can recognize you. Thank you so much for your service. Looking forward. Thank you. One other note, just want to take a minute to thank the promoters and all the volunteers who worked so hard to put on a very successful Brew Fest this last Saturday on our waterfront. It was an amazing event. The other thing, just in light of some of our behavior at last council meeting, I want to make it known that we will not tolerate any outbursts or violations of decorum. If anybody does that without warning, they'll be escorted from the chamber. So just so we know that. All right, thank you. That concludes the mayor's report this evening. Clerk's report.
There is no clerk's report.
Thank you. Unfinished business.
An ordinance authorizing the city manager to expend funds in the amount of $628,290 with Reclaim Company LLC of Fairmont, West Virginia for abatement and demolition for the 14th Street Development Project to be charged to West Virginia Economic Enhancement Grant.
I make a motion to adopt the ordinance.
I will second.
Any discussion? Questions? If not, all those in favor, please record your votes. That motion's approved.
I just changed those too. An ordinance of the Council of the City of Wheeling fixing the assessments for the cost of raising dilapidated structures on certain properties in the city in accordance with the applicable sections of the West Virginia Code and the codified ordinances of the City of Wheeling.
I'll move to adopt the ordinance.
Second.
Do we have any discussion? Once again, hearing none, I'd ask you to record your votes. Motion approved.
An ordinance of the Council of the City of Wheeling authorizing the conveyance of certain real property located at 314 South York Street to the Ohio Valley ADC and further authorizing the city manager to execute and deliver such deeds and other documents to effectuate this conveyance.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Once again, hearing none, please record your votes. Motion approved.
And that concludes unfinished business.
Thank you. We do have before us the Historic Landmark Commission minutes from June 4, 2026 that were held over. Is there a motion to accept those as received?
Second.
Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, I'd ask all those in favor to signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those minutes are accepted as received. Remarks from council, and tonight I'll start with Councilor Seidler, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to thank the governor for his announcement today of additional grant funds for the Gateway project. Just that's not a city directed project, but that's a huge investment in our community. So thank you for that. That's all.
Just to remind everyone, in the season, so some streets will be blocked and just have some patience. Trying to make a better city roads for us.
Very briefly, I probably should have said this last council meeting, but there was a lot going on, so I sort of forgot. So I'd like to thank the community for supporting St. John's the Greek Orthodox Church for our Greek festival, the Italian festival, the Lebanese festival. I think festivals like that are sort of what is the backbone of our community. And I know that all 3 festivals were very well attended this year. And I know that at least to everyone that's part of those festivals, we truly appreciate everyone coming out and supporting us. And we look forward to seeing you all again next year. And I know that Heritage Port has just been busy and full of people all summer long. And I think that these type of events is what we really, I think, shows what kind of quality of life we provide here in Wheeling. And I look forward to next year for our festival season, because I mean, it's almost over this year. So if there's any more festivals down at Heritage Port, please get to them now before it's over. So thank you, everyone, for supporting us.
Yes, thank you. everybody says there's nothing to do in Wheeling. Well, tomorrow night at 5:30 in Elm Grove Civics Building, we're having the Ward 6 Crime Watch. So everyone's invited out to attend. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right. Counselor Acero,
Nothing from me this evening.
thank you. At this point then, we'll have the report of committees. We do have Development Committee minutes from August 11, 2026. Is there a motion to accept those as received?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and those minutes will be accepted as received. Report of City Manager, Mr. Herron.
Great, thank you, Mayor. As you know, several weeks ago, we had some unfortunate flooding in Elm Grove, in the Elm Terrace area. And city staff, along with our consulting engineers, Verdandis, have been working on what happened during that storm and ways in which we can try to avoid that in the future. So I have asked AJ Smith with the Verdandis engineering consulting firm to give a brief overview and presentation to council and some of the ideas that we're working on to try to alleviate the flooding that's occurring in that neighborhood. AJ?
Thank you. I'm AJ Smith. I'm an engineer with Verdantis here in Wheeling. As Mr. Heron said, we're helping the city look at the causes of the flooding at the Elm Terrace Plaza and best solutions to try to mitigate flooding there in the future. So next slide. And the first thing we did was kind of do a preliminary study to see where all sources of water are, where's it coming from, where's it going. There's almost a 100-acre watershed that drains directly to the Elm Terrace Plaza to the one catch basin in the middle of the parking lot. The parking lot sits kind of in a natural bowl with some very steep wooded terrain above it, residential areas, streets, houses with storm systems that all feed down to that parking lot. So next slide. We looked at both the June flooding event that was mentioned, as well as a similar flooding event June of last year, just as far as those precipitation numbers to see what rain we encountered and what our storm systems were expected to handle. So on the next slide, we pulled in available LiDAR topography for both the drainage area and also the parking lot to kind of see where the high and low spots were to use that information as part of our design. Next slide shows the actual conveyance systems, including the residential storm sewer systems that feed down towards that parking lot. Up on the northern end, you can kind of see the sled trucking industrial facility that also has some areas that drain down through the residential areas towards the plaza. So all of this information was used to create our model to look at during those rain events, what's actually flowing down to the plaza as far as volume, quantity, so we know how best to handle it. So this is just our storm sewer profile. Like I said, there's one catch basin with a main line going under the buildings that goes out to Big Willing Creek. So this scenario from the June rain event shows an elevated creek level with some water backing up through that pipe system, but showing that there's still some capacity in that pipe. That's important to know because now we know it's mainly an inlet control problem. And so it's part of our solutions on the next slide. We're focused on that. So in summary, we've got more water coming in than that one inlet can handle. We know that even with some backwater from the creek, we still have a little bit of capacity in that main line going under the plaza. And the next slide shows kind of the volumes that that parking lot can hold under those different inflows and depths that it might see during the intense rains that we're experiencing recently. So some short-term options that we're looking at as far as what can we design and implement and construct relatively quickly to mitigate the risk of flooding if there is another rain event. So we looked at 4 things, both upstream and downstream. As I mentioned, the parking lot, we found that we are in need of a larger inlet that can handle the flows that are all congregating at that spot, get it out through the pipe to the creek. Um, we looked at doing some improvements to the north at the sled parking lot, try to keep some of that runoff from coming at us at the parking lot. Slightly upstream, near Gatewood Avenue, there's an inlet structure that collects some, a large amount of concentrated flow from the hillside. Some improvements are needed there. And then we're also looking farther upstream, to see how we can help slow down, detain some of that water, keep the debris from coming down into the residential areas. So the first of these short-term options shown on the next slide, the larger inlets at the parking lot. Um, it'll need to take up 1 or 2 parking spaces, but this will really help handle that inflow so that that's not like a bottleneck, choke point when there's large intense rains and the water starts back on that lot.
I can interrupt for just a second. We did brief the plaza property owners on this situation here, and they are agreeable to eliminate a couple of parking spaces to enable us to construct.
Yeah, right now it's just like I said, the one main inlet, and during the June events that got clogged pretty quickly, and the owners were out there trying to unclog it, knee deep water as it's still raining. The nice thing about this type of design is that the raised inlet will help with that clog issue. Be less likely for debris to get clogged on the inlet to block the flows. Next option on the next slide that we're going to, as part of our short-term design and implementation, is the sled parking lot. We're going to divert majority of that flow comes down the hillside in the lot and off the lot, so that it's not flowing through residential areas and then making its way down towards the plaza. So this will take it to an existing storm sewer system that the city has on East Cove Avenue and divert it around the plaza. The third option on the next slide is that collection area just at the bottom of the hill along Gatewood. This saw a lot of debris coming down the hill during the heavy rains, which clogged the trash racks, kind of overflowed the chute. So we're going to do some modifications so that it's capturing that flow and not just letting it go around the structure of the roads and the yards, as well as modifying so that we collect more flow pipe when debris does come down the hill. And then lastly, looking uphill, again, trying to keep a lot of that debris, sediment, rock from coming down the slopes, which are very steep into the residential areas, putting in some temporary check dams and some structures that will still allow flow to go through, under, around them, but try to catch a lot of the big debris as a temporary measure to keep it from getting to us in the first place.
If I can make another comment, if you go back a slide. So that's a new structure that was put in as part of the Gatewood Storm Sewer Project. And that structure, because of the debris that came from the hillside, all of which was outside the city limits, became clogged, and water actually bypassed. There was water going down the pipe, but water bypassed the pipe, and it had capacity in the pipe to keep the water there. It was going out, as AJ said, onto the road and then making its way down to the parking lot. So not only do we want to make improvements to this wing wall inlet structure, make it wider and able to handle the debris, but if you go to the next slide, these are natural ways to try to stop the debris from getting to that inlet structure on the hillside, which is actually outside the city. So there's defined drainage ways that are just inundating that neighborhood from up above, and undeveloped property, and some of which is developed, but most of it's undeveloped.
Right, and it's just so steep. Those channels are getting eroded, so we definitely want to attack this problem from multiple angles, but it's always best to address the source of the problem, not try to handle all the water once it gets to you, but try to also mitigate upstream, slow the water down. So next slide, please. So in combination with these more short-term designs, we're also looking at some longer-term things that help the parking lot, looking at maintaining all the inlets just upstream of the parking lot, and then because of the lack of a lot of elevation fault between the parking lot and the creek, we'll be looking at potential need for underground detention and for pump station to get that water out of to the creek quicker. Just upstream, the residential areas, looking at diverting some storm flow to the south into another line so that reduce that drainage area to the plaza, take some of that flow around the south side. And then also, like I mentioned, going over the north side, both near the sled facility and even further upstream out of the city limits, there's ways to do some storm detention. And then further upslope, in addition, temporary check dams, look at some more permanent measures to slow that. And then with both of those, we're looking at potential fund sources out there to assist the city with both the short-term, long-term designs. So
Anybody have any questions of AJ? Okay, this work is continuing. We have been, as I mentioned, working with the property owner of the Elm Terrace Plaza. We have not authorized engineering for these projects yet, but that's something that's going to be coming before council probably in the next 2 weeks.
We've got X. You say, okay, got 2 or 3. How much does this?
yeah, we usually compare the actual rainfalls to theoretical storm events like a 5-year, 10-year, 100-year storm event. So we do run all of those. Typically, storm systems are sized for 10 or 25-year event. These ones that we've been seeing recently are 100-year event plus. So much.
Not just here.
Yeah, we're seeing much more intense, much more frequent, 100-year events. All around the state, the region.
Can I get a question?
Sure.
Yeah, maybe all of us.
Yeah, he emailed it to me today. I'll make sure that you get it.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, AJ. Okay, so the next item that I have, as you know, City Council approved a contract to demolish the TCI building in Elm Grove. Environmental remediation began yesterday. And however, I think we've talked about, this is going to be a very difficult demolition because it's in very tight quarters with National Road and Junior Avenue there. So unfortunately, in working with the contractor, there is going to be a need to close the Junior Avenue Bridge from September 8th to September 25th. We have had conversations with Averta, the fire department, as well as the school district, and all can work around this closure. But in order to get the steel beams off of the top of the building, which you can see if you drive by, it's going to require a crane. And then in order to get into the building with track hose, at least for the initial demolition, they're going to need the space to do that. And they're not going to be able to do it off of National Road because of AEP's lines, as well as the fact that National Road is a very busy street. So unfortunately, we tried everything we could to try to keep at least one lane open, but it's just not going to work. So there is going to be a closure of the Junior Avenue Bridge, September 8th to September 25th. Also, I wanted to comment on original propositions on item number 6 on the fire station congressionally directed spending project. We're very fortunate the bids came in slightly below the congressionally directed spending allocation. But I did want to, because this was like 3 years ago, I did want to thank again Senator Capito. This was her congressionally directed spending allocation. And we really appreciate the fact that she saw the values in our first responders and the need for renovations to our fire stations. So I thank her again for that. And then also tonight, prior to the meeting, the annual reports for the policemen and firemen's pension relief funds, which are required by the Municipal Pension Oversight Board, were distributed to council. The only action on that is to note that council did and will have the opportunity to review. But I did want to give a little bit of historic perspective on the police and fire pension funds. Since 2002, this community as a whole has addressed the issue of unfunded pension liabilities with gusto. Across the country, unfunded pension liabilities for police and fire or any other pension funds, municipal, et cetera, can really drag down a community from a financial perspective, even to the point where some communities are close to or have declared bankruptcy as a result of unfunded liabilities for pension funds. But back in July 1st, 2002, the fire pension fund had $3,911,000 in it. The police had $2,929,000. They both were 5% funded. The unfunded liability in 2002 was over $61 million. Today, I'm happy to report that the fire department assets, which are included in this report, are $83,043,000. For the fire. For the police are $57,687,000. Both are fully funded. We also have a $5,741,000 bond contingency reserve fund. So our police and fire pension funds are in incredibly good condition. They are overfunded, which bodes well for the future of not only the retirees and their families, but also the financial well-being of the city of Wheeling. In 2020, the city spearheaded a state law which was passed in one session to permit the sale of pension obligation bonds. The city sold bonds in the fall of 2020 for $42,192,000, which fully funded both police and fire. At the time, the pension funds had been closed in 2012 by City Council when state legislature provided the opportunity for two different types of funding of police and fire pension unfunded liabilities. In the past, there was only one. It was called the alternative method, which anyone who was around at the time knew that it was incredibly difficult for communities because there was a required contribution, and which I'm going to go into here in a second, of X number of dollars, and that automatically increased by 7% every year, regardless of what happened with your pension funds. So it was incredibly difficult to eat into that unfunded liability. So those plans were closed in 2012. At the time, council enacted the additional 0.5% sales tax to pay the additional costs associated with that. If the city were still on the alternative method of financing, which was the case from the late 1990s to 2012, today in the general fund, that cost would be $8,085,000 to the general fund. When the optional plan was closed and the bonds were sold in 2020, the annual contribution from the general fund to the police and fire pension funds were $4,959,000 out of the general fund every year. When the pension bonds were sold, the advantage to that was that the bond rate was 200 to 250 basis points lower than the actuarial assumption at the time of 7%. And then in addition to that, the bond legislation required that the state's insurance pension premium funds be the first dollars in for annual principal and interest. And then investments have outpaced the actuarial assumption and the bond interest rates. So what most recently, prior to the bond sale, was $4,959,000. On June 30th, the city's contribution to debt service for the entire bond program was $2,190,000. So it's almost a $6 million swing had the city stayed with the alternative plan, and it's a $3 million swing from the optional plan in 2020. So it's truly a success story. And what I'm most proud of is the fact that, as I mentioned, the assets are over 83 million for fire and over 57 million for the police. So again, that's a compliment to all the city councils who have been involved, but also the community for supporting what needed to be done to deal with these unfunded liabilities for our pension funds. That's my report.
First, Mr. Herron, just let me say thanks to you for your leadership on the fire and pension funds. I happen to know that Mr. Herron went over and above, and he helped not only Wheeling with their fire and pension funds, but several other communities around the state. So I just want to make sure that we recognize that. Any other questions of the city manager?
Well, yeah, that's a very good question. The answer is no. And we are the only ones, and mainly because we worked this out right and got the bond sale done right before interest rates went through the roof. Okay, and there were Beckley was very close to doing it, as was Martinsburg. But because interest rates exceeded the bond or the actuarial assumption, it didn't work financially. We got in under that happening. So as interest rates come down, more communities will take advantage of it. But there's a tipping point in which it makes sense, and we were well under that tipping point just in time. So
Again, congratulations on that piece of legislation. I remember when he first told me about it, I joked, the young fireman talked about that 20 years prior, and they laughed him out of the room. But I guess your plan was better than mine. So thanks.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Herron. Report of other officers.
There are none.
Petitions of redress or grievance.
There are none.
Petitions of all other kinds.
There are none.
That takes us to original propositions.
An ordinance of the Council of the City of Wheeling to create a one-way traffic flow from east to west on Lane 15. An ordinance of the Council of the City of Wheeling to create crosswalks at the intersection of 15th and Oak Street. An ordinance of the Council of the City of Wheeling to reduce the speed limit on Economy Street to 15 miles per hour. An ordinance of the Council of the City of Wheeling to create a three-way stop intersection at 12th Street and Water Street. An ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement and expend funds in the amount of $20,500 with Top Notch Landscaping and Supply LLC of Wheeling, West Virginia for a hydro seeding Gateway Park to be charged to project fund. An ordinance authorizing the city manager to expend funds in the amount of $1,509,190 with JD&E Construction Services of Wheeling, West Virginia for existing fire station renovations to be charged to Fire Station Congressionally Directed Spending Renovations Project. A resolution authorizing the city of Wheeling to accept the terms and conditions of the contract relating to maintain the Region 4 Highway Safety Program in the Northern Panhandle of West Virginia grant up to the amount of $473,400.
Move for adoption of the resolution.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'd ask you to please record your votes. That resolution is adopted.
And that concludes original propositions.
Thank you. Now we move to those wishing to be heard. I think everybody in this room knows the rules here. We'd ask you to approach the podium when called, give us your name and address, and you will